Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Wednesday. Glad to have you. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. President Donald Trump took a swipe at former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan, calling them both crooked as hell. We have the latest on this breaking story in today's show. The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday declined Florida's emergency request to enforce a state immigration law that would have criminalized reentry into the state by undocumented immigrants, a move that keeps a lower court's block on the measure in place, and not great news for the state of Florida. Former White House physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor's highly anticipated testimony yesterday before the House Oversight Committee ended pretty abruptly after the doctor repeatedly invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and declined to answer questions about President Joe Biden's health and fitness for office. Some of you text your opinion on this as well. And finally, the recently decommissioned Marine One is finding a new mission with the U.S. Secret Service. This is an interesting story for you presidential and aviation history students.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
These stories and much more in today's show. Thanks for being with me. President Donald Trump yesterday took a big swipe at former FBI Director James Comey. You got to know that Trump is probably enjoying this way too much, calling him crooked as hell. Talking with reporters during a noon luncheon at the White House, President Trump made his comments when asked whether he wanted the men behind bars. The Washington Times earlier this week reported that the FBI had opened criminal investigations against Comey and Brennan for their involvement in the government's investigation into Trump, based on bad information, as we know, that Trump and some of his advisors were colluding with Russia leading up to the 2016 presidential election. Now, we all know that Hillary Clinton's organization paid for this information, trying to discredit Donald Trump as a serious candidate. Didn't work as he beat her. She wasn't expecting it at all. President Trump yesterday, talking to the New York Post, claimed that he was in the dark about a new investigation into these two fine gentlemen. The president said, well, I know nothing about it other than what I've read today, but I'll tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. He added that actions can have consequences. He said, I think they're crooked as hell. Maybe they have to pay a price for that. We can only hope that they're finally held accountable. The Times said a referral to the FBI to open the investigation included the potential of the two acting as part of a conspiracy. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Tuesday told Fox News that Brennan and Comey are, quote, disgraceful individuals who turned against our Constitution and our country, and I'm sure they did, in fact, lie to Congress, and it's up to the Department of Justice to investigate and to prosecute them if they did. On July the 2nd, current CIA Director John Ratcliffe offered a declassified internal tradecraft review of the 2016 election investigation into Trump. He then said, all the world can now see the truth. Brennan, Clapper, James Clapper, former Director of National Intelligence, and Comey manipulated intelligence and silenced career professionals, all to get Trump. Thank you to the career at CIA officers who conducted this review and have exposed the facts. Now, let's just use those facts to pursue this investigation and hold these guys accountable. Some immigration news yesterday. U.S. Customs and Border Protection issued a sharp warning this week to green card holders. Engaging in criminal activity could lead to mandatory detention and the revocation of legal permanent residency, they said. Posting on X, CBP said processing or possessing a green card is a privilege, not a right. Having a criminal history does not make you an upstanding, lawful, permanent resident. The agency reminded immigrants that under U.S. law, legal status can be rescinded for those who violate the terms of their residency or commit certain crimes. The warning emphasized that green card holders with criminal records can face immigration removal proceedings and detention if stopped at a port of entry. As of January 1st, 2024, an estimated 12.8 million people in the U.S. held green cards. This according to Office of Homeland Security statistics. Now, the Trump administration has vowed to intensify scrutiny on all immigration categories, as we know. They're going to look at this very closely. From student visas to green card holders, they're going to try to take an inventory of who's actually in our country because they care. They care about who's in their country, unlike Biden and Harris, who just opened the doors, welcomed people in, and didn't care where they went. Didn't care if we ever heard from them again. So as part of a much broader enforcement agenda with the Trump administration, back in June, the State Department instructed consular officers to expand background checks and examine applicants' social media activity more closely before issuing student visas. We're going to check you out now. It's not going to be automatic. And don't come over here protesting on our university grounds, or that'll get you a fast track back home, too. So several arrests this year have highlighted the Trump administration's much tougher posture. In one high-profile case, pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was arrested in March at his New York home. Authorities accused him of participating in violent protests at Columbia University and distributing anti-Israel propaganda. His arrest sparked campus-wide unrest in April when students chained themselves to gates at St. Paul's Chapel. Khalil was released from federal detention last week pending further legal proceedings. Now, some legal experts are pushing back. Immigration attorneys, advocates stress that green card revocation is not as simple as CBP's post might imply. I don't understand why that would be the case. Why not? Amelia Wilson, a law professor at the Elizabeth Hobbs School of Law and director of the Immigration Justice Clinic. Now, that tells you something who she is. Immigration Justice Clinic. She says the Department of Homeland Security cannot unilaterally revoke a permanent residence status, saying there is a legal process that includes formal notice and the right to a hearing before an immigration judge. Well, that may be the case, but they can still send you home if you violated the law and violated the terms of your being here. As the statement said in the beginning, having a green card is not your right. It is a privilege. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, permanent residents facing revocation must be served a notice of intent to rescind, giving them an opportunity to contest the action in court. So what does this mean? While the CBP's message is framed as a warning, as a threat, as a, hey, pay attention here, some legal experts argue that it also risks sowing fear and confusion among lawful immigrants. Still, the administration insists it will continue to enforce immigration laws aggressively and particularly against those who abuse the system or threaten public safety. Look, if you're here, if you have a green card and you are honoring our laws, you're not breaking the law, you don't have anything to be concerned about. But if you're out there breaking the law, if you're here on a student visa, I would suggest that maybe you skip the next protest. Maybe you stay in your dorm room and you study for your exams next week rather than marching around out there as if you are an American citizen. You have the right to protest. For green card holders with any criminal history, Immigration's attorneys recommend consulting with legal counsel before international travel and keeping documentation in order or in case of CBP inquiries at ports of entry. And again, abide by our laws. Be good, and you'll be okay. It's just that simple. You know, I just love it when some of these people, some of these activists who are here in our country and taking advantage of all we have to offer, but yet they think that they have that right just because we value freedom of speech. They think that they have that right to protest and to challenge us on our way of life. Tell us how we should be living. Tell us what we should be doing. It doesn't work that way. If you're here from Iran or from Iraq or anywhere, South America, you're here as our guest. And until you become a legal citizen of the United States, you do have some limited, you can always be sent back home. If you don't like it here, if you feel like that, we're violating your rights, then self-deport. Just turn around and go back from whence you came. It's just that simple. But if you want to stay here, if you want to continue in school, you want to graduate, or if you're here on a work visa and you want to keep your job, then just abide by our laws. Respect the idea that you're our guest and act like you're our guest. Don't act like you're a citizen with all the rights that entails. Respect our rule of law. It's just that simple, and you'll be okay. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. One more thing before we move on from the topic of immigration. The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday declined Florida's emergency request to enforce a state immigration law that would criminalize reentry into the state of Florida by undocumented immigrants, a move that at this point keeps a lower court's block on the measure in place. It was a short, unsigned order. The justices offered no explanation for their decision and noted no dissent, despite the court's 6-3 conservative majority. The ruling means that Senate Bill 4C, a controversial law passed by Florida lawmakers recently, will remain on hold while legal challenges continue in lower court. So what does this law do? Why is this important, and why did it make headlines yesterday? Senate Bill 4C makes it a felony for undocumented immigrants to reenter Florida if they had previously been deported or denied entry into the U.S. This law applies even to individuals who may have since gained lawful status. Anyone arrested under the law would be jailed without bond until trial. Pretty harsh, pretty direct. But look, states are going to have to start taking action like this to protect themselves. And Florida just decided they'd had enough. And they just decided that we're going to not have this revolving door of these illegals coming in, being deported, and they come back. The legislation, upon passage, was immediately challenged by civil rights groups, as you can imagine, the typical ACLU lawsuits. They argued that it would lead to racial profiling, that it would create chaos in enforcement, and that it would undermine federal authority over immigration. U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams issued a preliminary injunction back in April, saying that the law likely conflicts with the federal government's sole authority to regulate immigration and deportation. Now, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer took the case to the Supreme Court, urging the justices to lift the injunction. Uthmeyer argued that without the law, the state would remain vulnerable to the serious harms of illegal immigration while litigation drags on. 18 Republican-led states filed an amicus brief supporting Florida, warning of a growing crisis at the southern border and calling on the court to give states more power to act in the federal government's absence. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? You can protect your own borders. A state should be able to protect their own borders. Look, if California, New York, some of those states, they want to welcome illegals into their states, that's fine. But if you have a state like Florida, like South Carolina, who does not want to welcome them into their states, or at least wants them to go through the correct process, they should be allowed to do that. And there should be penalties involved. A state should be allowed to penalize those who ignore that law. The U.S. Department of Justice filed a 33-page brief in support of Florida's position. Now, this is kind of rare for the DOJ to take a position in a case like this involving a state. They claim that SB 4C complements, not contradicts, federal immigration law. Basically agreeing with them that, yes, we need states doing this, and we need to work side by side with states to get this accomplished. But despite the support of the Department of Justice, the Supreme Court declined to take immediate action. I'd love to know the conversations that were going on and why they're thinking this, why the justices felt like they shouldn't be involved in this. And obviously it must have been unanimous. The decision, of course, is a temporary setback. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the Trump administration, which, of course, has backed the state-level crackdown too. President Trump, Governor DeSantis, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem recently toured Florida's Alligator Alcatraz, a migrant detention facility, underscoring their commitment to aggressive immigration enforcement. So they're all trying to work together. They're all sort of on the same page. Still, the court's denial doesn't end the legal fight, though. The case continues in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals and could return to the High Court after a final ruling. And maybe that was the thinking of the justices, that we need for this to unfold in the lower courts first. Let's give them their day in court. Then we'll consider it. If the lower court doesn't, if it's appealed from the lower court. Now, the ACLU, which of course brought the original challenge, praised the ruling and warned that allowing laws like Florida's to stand would create a chaotic patchwork of conflicting immigration policies across the states. They said in a statement, the Constitution is clear. Immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility. And I get that. But what do you do if the federal government is not protecting your citizens? Does that mean you just have to sit back and take it? Or can you not do what Florida is trying to do and protect yourself? Again, send them to California. Look, Biden loved his the app that he had developed, probably spent millions of our dollars on it so that people could come and they could request an appointment and get entry to the country via the app. Set up another app and tell them, all right, well, here, California will welcome you. Florida will not. New York will welcome you. South Carolina will not. And let some of these states who feel like that those of us conservatives who feel like that we should have a border, feel like that people coming into our country should go through the process, let us protect our own states and let California and Washington State and some of those states who want to open up with open arms, let them do it. Let them bring them in. That's fine with me. You agree? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Former White House physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor's highly anticipated testimony before the House Oversight Committee ended pretty abruptly yesterday after the doctor repeatedly invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and declined to answer questions about President Joe Biden's health and fitness for office. The closed-door session, expected to last several hours, was over in less than an hour. According to Oversight Committee Chair Representative James Comey, the doctor refused to answer even the committee's opening questions and made a quick exit where he refused to speak with the press, too.
Dr. O'Connor, how was the deposition?
Will you make any comments to press, sir?
Do you have a message for the committee?
Now, Chairman Comey asked some pretty basic questions. Again, this was a closed-door meeting, so we weren't able, there's not any video of it, but the chairman spoke to press afterwards and told us some of the questions he asked. For example, were you ever told to lie about the president's health? He pled the fifth, would not refuse to answer. Did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? Again, pled the fifth, refused to answer. Representative Comey told reporters, this is unprecedented. Now, O'Connor's refusal to answer drew immediate fire from Republicans, as you can imagine. They're investigating whether Joe Biden's top staff may have concealed signs of cognitive or physical decline during his presidency. Comey said most people invoke the fifth when they have criminal liability. His actions today speak loud and clear. But O'Connor's legal team pushed back, arguing that the doctor's silence was not an admission of guilt, but rather a principled stand to protect patient confidentiality. Some of you had comments on this. I'll share with you in a minute. They said that, and he's also protecting his own legal exposure in an increasingly politicized investigation. O'Connor's attorney said in a statement, revealing confidential patient information would violate the most fundamental ethical duty of a physician. Dr. O'Connor will not violate his oath of confidentiality to any of his patients, including President Biden. They also pointed out that the Department of Justice has launched a separate investigation involving O'Connor, a factor that may have influenced his decision to remain silent under oath as well. They said in the statement, we want to emphasize that asserting the Fifth Amendment privilege does not imply that Dr. O'Connor has committed any crime. And that's correct. I mean, that's why we have the Fifth. But, you know, it's been interesting about the response. Representative Jasmine Crockett, a former criminal defense attorney who sat in on the interview, defended O'Connor's legal strategy and accused Republicans of weaponizing the process. Ms. Crockett, first off, it's hard to believe that she is a criminal defense attorney. Can you imagine her defending you in a court of law? That has nothing to do with this, though. She said, to say that invoking the Fifth is a sign of guilt is legally and constitutionally inaccurate. With this rogue DOJ conducting a parallel criminal investigation, I think Dr. O'Connor did exactly what any good lawyer would advise him to do. Ms. Crockett also criticized what she described as a partisan fishing expedition, calling the Oversight Committee's framing of the interview theatrical and deliberately misleading. She said, this isn't about transparency. This is about building a narrative. She was happy to speak to reporters afterwards. O'Connor and his lawyers entered the deposition just after 10 a.m. Yesterday morning, and exited less than 40 minutes later, ignoring shouted questions from the press. That's part of the audio that I played to you. There's a video circulating with him coming out of the hearing room, walking down the hall with the press, asking him questions, and he just completely ignores them, keeps walking. Comey, however, made it clear that yesterday's developments won't stall the committee's work. He said that they have several other witnesses who will be deposed, and that that this is something that the American people care about, saying that we're going to continue to investigate and will be transparent about our findings. Among those already questioned is former Biden staff secretary Neera Tanden, with more ex-White House officials expected to be subpoenaed and questioned in the coming weeks. So why is this important? The questioning of a sitting president's physician is virtually without precedent, highlighting the extraordinary tension around Joe Biden's fitness for office and the growing scrutiny of how his team has managed public perceptions of his health during his term in the White House and even after leaving the White House. The White House maintains that Biden, the former staffers of the White House, of the Biden White House, say that Biden was fit for duty. Critics have pointed to moments of visible confusion, verbal stumbles, shaking hands with somebody who wasn't there, something that the administration denies. But we saw some of it. I mean, we saw some of the video of Joe Biden speaking to a group of people and then walking away from the podium, clearly confused on which direction to go, clearly confused on what to do next. And we also know that the White House shielded Joe Biden from a lot of public events. They tried to script everything they possibly could. Look, that's why he dropped out of his reelection campaign. He did so bad in the debate last June with Donald Trump. They realized this man can't, he can't complete a campaign. No way he can do this. No way he can be out on the stump giving speech after speech after speech. No way he can do another debate. But yet they want us to believe that nothing was wrong, that we shouldn't be concerned about it. Dr. O'Connor's silence may now add fuel to both sides. The Republicans are probably going to be determined now to get some answers. Everyone's saying, well, what are they hiding? Democrats, a case study in the risk of politicizing medical confidentiality, that's going to be their thing, is, you're trying to invade someone's personal life. For now, the Oversight Committee investigation will continue on, though. There'll be more closed-door sessions, more subpoenas, more partisan battles, and we don't know where this is headed. I've received some interesting responses from you, though, and I'd love for you to I'd love to get your take on this. You can text me. You can email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always remember to use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com and place your order. Take advantage of Michael and Dale's special offer right now. Still has some Percale bed sheets. You can get a set for as low as $24.98 when you use promo code Joey at mypillow.com. You can call 800-893-4059 as well. Have your credit card ready. And for a limited time still, when your order's over $100, you're going to receive $100 in free digital gifts. They'll talk with you about it when you place your order, or online when you place your order. These sheets are amazing. They're breathable. They have a cool, crisp feel. They're the most comfortable sheets you'll ever own, I promise you. If not, send them back. Michael and Dale's warranty applies. Send them back if you're not completely happy with them. What I love about them, too, is they're big enough. They have deep pockets. They'll fit over those thicker mattresses that so many of us have now. So go to mypillow.com. Call 800-893-4059. Always use promo code Joey while you're there. Check out pillows. Check out the MyPillow slippers. All the great products that they have. But let me know what you think about this. My buddy Dom in Illinois made a point that he thinks that we should respect the doctor-client privilege. And I do too. Here's what I don't think we should do, though. If this Dr. O'Connor knew at the time that Joe Biden was unfit to serve as president of the United States, but yet he gave him a clean bill of health, he told the public at during his annual reports that Biden, in fact, was capable, then he needs to be held accountable. But also, Ray made a good point in his text. And I'm going to read you Ray's text. He says, "Good day, Joey. Time to stir things up. Congress is holding hearings on the Biden mental state cover-up. If everyone on the left admitted to the cover-up, what would be the result? We are as bad as the other side. If we are honest with ourselves, we know that no one will go to jail and nothing will happen to the left. We're wasting time and money when there are many real legislative issues we should be addressing. I am concerned about the failures of the Biden administration as anyone. However, the past cannot be changed. Let's go forward with President Trump's programs to make America great again. That's all I know. Basically saying, let's move on. What's it going to matter? We can't undo it. He has a point, doesn't he? What do you think? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. I have an update for you on the flooding in Texas, as that's been a major story all week long, of course. A team of 5 people and 2 dogs trained in disaster response is traveling to Texas to help locate people swept away during last weekend's floods, according to Governor Henry McMaster's office. More than 100 people, including 30 children, have been confirmed dead when the rivers in the Texas hills flooded over the weekend. We've heard the just tragic stories of the children's summer camp, Christian camp. Texas Governor Greg Abbott asked Governor McMaster for the state's help in a phone call earlier this week, according to the South Carolina Governor's Office. McMaster obliged, deploying a specialized team from South Carolina, which is trained to find and, when possible, help people in all sorts of disaster scenarios. Again, the team includes 2 canines trained in detecting human remains through a Greenville nonprofit. McMaster said in a statement, Team South Carolina stands ready to offer any support we can in some of our toughest moments. The people of Texas were there for us. Now it's our duty to return that support and stand by our friends in their time of need. Last year, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department employees traveled to South Carolina to help during the Hurricane Helene and the aftermath of that. A federal mutual aid system called the Emergency Management System Compact helped coordinate the effort. South Carolina has long participated in the program and sends teams to help wherever disaster strikes, said Kim Stinson, director of the state's Emergency Management Division. In a statement, Stinson said, over the years, we've helped coordinate assistance, for instance, in Kentucky, Florida, California, Alaska, and now Texas. Speaking of Texas, the Kerrville, Texas mayor, Joe Herring, told reporters yesterday that the press conference on Tuesday was, quote, a disaster, as he took the news media to task for being out of order as officials provided updates, and the reporters, typically as they do, were yelling questions. Mr. Herring said he's not going to do that.
I'm married to a retired first grade teacher. And I learned a little bit about classroom management from her. If you yell questions at us, we're probably going to pick someone else to answer, okay? So if you feel the need to yell your questions, I will feel the need to not answer your question. In first grade, they raised their hands. That might be a good start. Yesterday was a disaster, and I was embarrassed. Our town was embarrassed. Your viewers were embarrassed. And I don't want that to happen again.
And good for him. Good for the mayor. Call him out. In another exchange, after his warning, Mayor Herring paused and held his hand up as questions were asked from reporters and said, "Listen, people are yelling again. I didn't really want," and he stopped them. A reporter could be heard replying, "If you offer only 3 questions, you're going to have the yelling." The mayor replied, "Guess what? You're in Kerrville, and we're going to do it my way." Look, I understand there are a lot of questions, but there'll be time for those questions. Now's the time to let the mayor, let these areas, again, recover their people, find their people who are missing. Then we can start talking about what could have been done to potentially avoid this. Reporters pressed local officials for clarity on the timing and effectiveness of emergency alerts. They questioned whether the county's emergency management officer was awake and monitoring conditions when the flash flood warnings were issued. I mean, basically, a bunch of fingers are being pointed. Sheriff Larry Letha deflected inquiries about the alert system's responsibilities, while Lieutenant Colonel Ben Baker of the Texas Game Wardens stated that the briefing would focus solely on ongoing recovery efforts, declining to address questions about accountability. The sheriff said those questions are going to be answered. I believe those questions need to be answered to the families of the loved ones, to the public. But he said that the priority right now is recovering victims. He said, we're not running. We're not going to hide from anything. And again, there's a time for everything. Of course, hardest hit area, Camp Mystic, the all-girls Christian summer camp that we've learned so much about these past few days in Hunt, Texas, where 27 campers and counselors were initially reported missing. As of yesterday, 5 campers and 1 counselor still remain unaccounted for. But the big question, and it's a legitimate question, is over the growing concern about whether local officials took any meaningful steps to warn campers and residents in this region. It's known as Flash Flood Alley. The area's history of dangerous floods is well known, yet some believe that concerns about how prepared authorities were have the questions have gone unanswered. And the mayor is saying, look, we're going to get to that, just not now. There's a report that a neighboring county next to Kerr had, in fact, installed a early warning system just recently, and that they lost no one because their system worked. In Kerr County, where, again, about 90 bodies have been recovered, officials say their current focus is on recovering. County Judge Rob Kelly acknowledged that Kerr County lacks a public flood warning system. Officials have long discussed the idea that they needed one. A $875,000 grant request to FEMA was denied 8 years ago. Kelly added that efforts to fund the system locally stalled after residents rejected the cost. Now, I'm sure there won't be that debate now. Hindsight is 2020. The region's vulnerability is not new. I told you about this yesterday, 1987. A flooded nearby Comfort swamped evacuation vehicles from a youth camp, very similar, killing 10 teenagers. Mayor Herring was also asked yesterday, the concept of flood warnings has been discussed at least 24 times by the county. What haven't these systems, or why haven't these systems gone into place? The mayor replied, I wasn't in office during those discussions. Frankly, I'm more focused on the future than the past, as you know. What I can say is that the governor, lieutenant governor, and speaker of the House have all provided us support, and they have all said this is a priority for the upcoming special legislative session. Only 2 days before the flooding, Texas inspectors approved Camp Mystique's emergency preparedness plans. However, 5 years' worth of inspection reports obtained by the Associated Press lack details on how evacuations will be carried out or what specific responsibilities were assigned to staff members and counselors during an emergency. Again, there'll be a time when all of this information can be gone through with a fine-tooth comb. Right now, let's just help these families. Let's support these families. And yes, if you're in an area that is prone to flooding like this, you need some type of early warning system. Look, I guarantee you there's not a person in this area now who would think the $875,000 price tag is too much. I can guarantee you there's families who have lost loved ones who would gladly donate $875,000, but it's not going to bring their loved one back. We can't look backwards we got to look forward and think about what do we do now to prevent this from happening in the future. You agree? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.